Morning, everyone. So one morning, two young fish are swimming along, when all of a sudden, an older fish swims by in the opposite direction. The old fish turns to the young fish and says, "Morning, boys. How's the water?" The two young fish smile and nod, swim on for a little bit, until one of them turns to the other and says, "What the hell is water?" So the author David Foster Wallace told this story to the graduating class of Kenyon College in 2005. The point of the fish story, he told students, is that the most immediate, important realities, the ones that shape our existence, that sustain us, are often the ones that are the hardest to see and to talk about. So I thought about this story a lot as I was applying to the GSB and trying to answer that question, what matters most to you and why? I must have written a dozen drafts of that essay, and each one was more convoluted and more awful than the one before. At one point, when I couldn't answer the question, I turned to my friends and my family, thinking maybe they had the answer. That's right, in true Silicon Valley style, I tried to outsource the answer to what is obviously a very deeply personal question. And then, just to make matters a little bit worse, I would go to the admissions website, and I'd watch videos of current students who would talk about how much they had loved the application process, and in particular, how much they liked answering that question, what matters most to you? So maybe some of you feel that way. But I didn't. For me, the process was torturous. And the end product, it was an overwrought, convoluted 800 words about culture. Culture. So I felt like I got into GSB in spite of that essay, and definitely not because of it. And so when I got to GSB last fall, I felt like a little bit of a fraud. I felt like I had tricked Derek. And I also felt I'm probably the only one who feels this way. So clearly that's not true. Clearly a lot of us have no idea what matters most to us. And that's crazy, right? Because we're a pretty smart and scrappy bunch. We've got the answers to a lot of questions. And yet we can't figure out this really simple question. So I've got an idea. A monthly graduation speech. And because it was inspired by this fish story, I'm thinking about calling it What's Water? So here's what I want to do. Every month, I want to bring an amazing speaker to the GSB to give a commencement address. And this isn't just any kind of speech. It's a reflective speech in which the speaker is going to reflect on their own experiences, their job, their life, everything holistically. And in reflecting on their experiences, they're going to give us an opportunity to think about our own experience here at the GSB in a different way. So now some of you might be asking yourselves a very good question. Your solution is more speakers? So fair enough, right? There are a ton of speakers here at the GSB. And in fact, in preparing for this speech, I looked up who's coming over the next week or so. Here's the list. So this is a full-time job, right? This is about 50 speakers. If you went to all of these speeches, this is all you would do. Here are the ones that I'll probably go to, either because they're awesome, like Vinod Khosla, or because I worked for them, like Jane Chen, or because I find them interesting because of their industry, whatever. But there are two people I'm really excited about seeing. Two people that I'm almost certainly going to carve out time for. It's these two. Our classmates Gaia and Jasper, who are giving talk next Monday. So talk is awesome, right? Because talk is different from just about everything we do at the GSB. Talk is an opportunity to sit quietly for an hour, try to hold off on those cell phones, and listen to our classmates tell their stories, to talk about what motivates them, what has challenged them, what continues to challenge them. And inevitably, as I listen to talk, I think about myself in a different way. I reflect on my own experiences here and how I might want to shape them a little bit differently. So I got to thinking, what if we could do something like talk, but with famous people? The kind of people that are on this list, the kind of people we invite to events like View from the Top. But instead of spending 55 minutes talking about the strategic, tactical moves they've made to get to where they are now in their career, we really honed in on those 5 minutes. The 5 minutes where somebody inevitably asks a question like, if you had one piece of advice for us, what would it be? And then I realized that already exists. It's the graduation speech. So now some of you might be asking yourselves another very good question. Don't we already have a graduation speaker? We do. But in response to that question, I would tell you this little story. When I graduated from Pomona College, I went to Poland for a year. And somewhere around late September, early October, I realized it was getting cold. And then I realized it was going to get really cold. And I'm a Californian. I hadn't bothered to pack my winter jacket. So a good starving student, I did what any starving student would do. I called my mom, and I begged her to send me my winter jacket. So my poor worried mother, she dutifully packaged up my winter jacket, and she sent it off by surface mail. So when my jacket arrived somewhere around mid-April the following year, this is a true story, especially if you know my mother, you'll know it's true. I took that jacket and I stuffed it in the back of my closet. I had no use for it anymore. So I would just ask you, do you really want to wait till the end of your 2 years here at the GSB to hear this kind of talk? And do you want just one shot at an inspirational speech? A little early, sorry. Ignore that slide. So I would ask you to reflect on the word commencement. To commence means to begin. And in the context of the undergrad experience, a commencement address comes at the end of the academic experience, but just as undergrads are commencing their foray into the real world. So I think this makes a lot of sense, right? Because as an undergrad, your experience with the real world has been pretty limited, probably a couple unpaid internships. But the GSB is different. Here at the GSB, we have this weird real world school hybrid. We're aware of the real world at every moment, whether it be in the speakers that are coming to campus, the jobs that we're worried about, the summer internships that we're applying for. We're under no illusions that the real world is here. And we're constantly running, trying to figure out how to make best use of that. Sometimes I feel a little bit like a cartoon character in the cartoons I watched as a kid. Cartoons like this one, where a little gopher is running for his survival on a conveyor belt, running frantically. And even as a kid, I would think to myself, there is a clear escape route. Like, just jump off that conveyor belt, right? So now as an adult, as a GSB student, I like to think, I'm smarter than this cartoon gopher. And yet I find myself doing the same thing, running from class to a BBL to my club activity to a small group dinner. Too busy to take a step back, pause, and think about what really matters to me. So as I end today, I'd like to ask you for 3 things as I try to make the monthly commencement address, What's Water, a reality here at the GSB. The first is this. If you have ideas, if you have connections, send them to me. Secondly, if you're super excited about this idea and you want to get involved, I'm looking to create a team that would actually make this happen. I can't do it alone, and I don't want to. So if you're excited, come and talk with me. And finally, for the rest of you, I just ask for you to carve out time. An hour a month to listen to an amazing speaker. An hour a month to jump off that conveyor belt. An hour a month to take a step back and ask yourself the question, what's water? Thank you.